Hello there, old sports, and welcome to A Rose Within the Thorns, the podcast where we carefully prune back the confusion around English so your understanding can grow instead of your stress levels. This season, we are focusing on The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. Before we even start, I want to assure some of you, if you read chapter 1 and you felt confused or, maybe a little bored, or like you somehow missed the important part, you didn't. You actually had the correct reading experience. Most novels begin with a problem. Something happens immediately. A mystery appears, a conflict begins, a character is in danger. Fitzgerald begins The Great Gatsby with a dinner invitation. You get descriptions of houses, lawns, furniture, and people sitting around having polite conversations. It almost feels like this novel is stalling. But it isn't. Chapter 1 is not about events. Chapter 1 is about how to read the novel. Fitzgerald is quietly teaching us what matters before the story really begins, and he does this through the person telling the story, our narrator, Nick Carraway. This story is not happening in the present. Nick is remembering it after everything has already finished. That means every detail he includes is a choice. He's simply not reporting events, he's selecting and shaping them. This is important when we go to look back on this as an unreliable narrator. So very early, Nick tells us advice from his father. Whenever you feel like criticizing anyone, just remember that all the people in this world haven't had the advantages that you've had. It sounds like Nick is positioning himself as fair and understanding. He wants us to trust him. He almost introduces himself as someone who does not judge others. And then he quietly adds another line. I'm inclined to reserve all judgments. That seems simple, but Fitzgerald is doing two things at once. First, he makes Nick sound reliable and calm, reasonable, observant, the kind of narrator we feel safe to follow. But second, it prepares us to notice something. As you continue reading, listen carefully to how Nick describes people. He rarely insults directly. Instead, he uses carefully chosen descriptions that guide our opinion. He does judge, just not loudly. So Nick is not lying to us, but he's not neutral either. We're simply not seeing the story. We are seeing Nick's understanding of the story. And once you realize that, the next part of the chapter becomes much more interesting. So Nick has moved from the Midwest to New York to work in finance and rents a small house in a place called West Egg. West Egg represents new money, that is the recently wealthy people. The large houses are designed to be noticed. Across the bay is East Egg, where his cousin Daisy lives with her husband Tom Buchanan. East Egg represents old money, families who have always been wealthy and do not need to prove it. Nick travels across the bay for dinner, and this dinner becomes incredibly important, not because of what happens, because of what doesn't happen. So Tom is introduced as confident and physically powerful, but also controlling. During dinner, the phone rings, and it is his mistress calling. Everyone knows. Daisy knows. Jordan knows. Nick now understands this. But nobody directly confronts him. This conversation simply continues. Fitzgerald is quietly showing us a rule of the society of the time. Avoiding discomfort is more important than confronting the truth. During the evening, Daisy says something about her daughter. I hope she'll be a fool. That's the best thing a girl can be in this world. A beautiful little fool. At first it sounds playful. It isn't. Daisy does not say she wants her daughter to be happy. She says she wants her daughter not to understand, because understanding would mean recognizing Tom's behavior and recognizing her lack of control. Daisy is suggesting that awareness makes life painful. Notice where Fitzgerald places this line. A beautiful home, a comfortable dinner, polite company. The setting looks perfect. But her words reveal something unsettled underneath. So when the scene appears calm, the dialogue tells a different story. Nick leaves the dinner feeling uneasy, returns home, and this is where the chapter shifts from social observation to symbolism. He sees his neighbor for the first time. Not at a party, not surrounded by friends, but alone. Gatsby stands outside his enormous mansion and stretches his arms towards the dark water and a single green light across the bay. He cannot reach it. He can only look at it. Fitzgerald has done something really interesting here. We do not hear Gatsby speak. We don't learn about his history. We don't even get a formal introduction here. We get an action. Reaching. The green light is small and distant. Gatsby is not interacting with it. He's orienting himself towards it. This tells us that Gatsby is defined not by what he has, but by what he hopes for. Notice the contrast. There's a mansion behind him, darkness around him, and a tiny light far away. Wealth is physically close, yet what matters to him is distant. Right near the start, Nick also describes Gatsby before properly meeting him, saying there was something gorgeous about him, a sensitivity to the promises of life. Nick cannot actually know this yet. He's not spoken yet to Gatsby. This is Nick's interpreting, imagining, and shaping of Gatsby before we even meet him. Fitzgerald is showing us that our understanding of people often begins as perception before reality. And suddenly the chapter connects. People are maintaining appearances. People are avoiding uncomfortable truths. And people are wanting something just out of reach. Nothing dramatic has happened, but the novel has introduced its patterns. Before moving to chapter 2, just sit with a few observations for now. Why is Gatsby introduced alone instead of at one of his famous parties? Why does Daisy talk about ignorance as if it protects people? And why does Nick begin by saying he does not judge others yet carefully describes everyone? You don't need perfect answers yet. Just notice. Because the great Gatsby builds meaning slowly. Fitzgerald is not handing you conclusions. He's inviting you to observe, just the way that Nick is doing as well. As you continue reading, pay attention to some repetition. What are the characters wanting? What are they avoiding? And what are they pretending? Because this novel is less interested in what people do, and far more interested in why they do it. So, next episode, we are going to leave the mansion and travel to the Valley of Ashes, and you may begin to see that the world of wealth we've just seen depends on another world entirely. Until then, keep reading slowly. You're not supposed to understand everything yet, you're just supposed to start noticing. Gatsby is reaching towards something he believes will give his life meaning. We just do not know yet whether that hope is comforting or if it's dangerous. So, this has been A Rose Within the Thorns, where we prune the confusion so knowledge can grow.